2022 is obviously coming to a close, and so it's about the time of year where we can start reflecting on the year in review. I wanted this video to be almost as a template for you guys, so you guys can also reflect on the past year along with me. So as I make my bullet journal spread, I also have a template of it in the description box below that you guys can download and use as you do your own reflections if you don't want to make a whole bullet journal spread like I did. So speaking of, I did definitely open my Bujo and start planning that way. As I start sketching, I will say that I had 4 main goals for this reflection. I feel like as you look in a year in review, it's always important to ask yourself some just very basic questions, looking at the good, the bad, the ugly, and then the future. So first, let's talk about accomplishments. So these are going to be your wins for the year. What did you do well? What challenges did you overcome? I feel like this is obviously super important because you want to reward yourself and pat yourself on the back for the hard things that we've gone through. 2022 definitely was not my worst year, that's for sure. It was a pretty great year for me, but there are definitely a lot of challenges that I overcame and just like accomplishments that I want to give myself credit for. And so in this section, I think it's just very important to just kind of list all the great things that happened. And even if it wasn't something that you overcome, just like fun things you did, if you went on a trip with a friend, if you spent more time for self-care this year, if you read more books or something, just like good things that happened this year, because it's always good to start on a positive note. Now, the next box I want to talk about is going to be a unmet goals section. So I guess you could call it the ugly in quotation marks, but like it's not really ugly. It's just looking at it with a critical point of view. So if you're like me, of course, I set goals at the beginning of each quarter and specifically also at the beginning of the year. And so I want to look back at all the goals that I set and see which ones I didn't meet. And I feel like when you're looking at this, it's very important to categorize. Did you not meet them because you were lazy and just didn't want to? Did you not meet them because of external factors? Like for example, I'm sure people had a lot of goals for the past couple years, but the COVID and pandemic stopped them from being able to finish them. Did you not finish the goal because it's not relevant to your life anymore? You have other interests that don't line up with those goals. There are many reasons that you may not have actually completed those goals, and that's totally fine no matter what your reason is. But I think it's important to just double check and look at all the things that you didn't finish and decide whether or not you want to add that goal into next year. Because obviously if it's not relevant anymore, maybe it's not something to focus on, but if it's something that you didn't have the time for or external factors stopped you from finishing it, maybe it's something that you can focus on more in the next year because you may have the opportunity to actually complete them. Personally, for me, a big goal this year was to work on my website, which I definitely have taken steps toward, but it's not quite finished yet. And so I've definitely taken a step back from it as I focus more on applications towards the end of this year. But definitely next year, I'm going to want to start focusing on that a lot more because I have big plans for my business and I feel like that's a really good way to get my business rolling. Before we get into the other 2 sections of this year in review, as you guys can see, I have my entire spread sketched and inked in, and now it's time to decorate it. And so I want to do so with Notebook Therapy's washi tapes and sticker set that they sent me. So flashback to a couple weeks ago when I first received the package. I just got this stunning collection in the mail from Notebook Therapy and I wanted to unbox it with you guys. Before we get into these gorgeous, stunning washi tapes and stamps, I want to jump straight into this notebook because oh my gosh. When Notebook Therapy contacted me wanting to send me their products, I had no clue that this new collection was going to be so amazing, but look at this stunning bullet journal. It has this most deliciously gorgeous golden rose on the front. It feels super thick to me, like a little larger than 160 pages. I could be mistaken, but it just seems like there are a lot of pages in here. It also has 2 bookmarks, of course, a place in the front to write in, a pocket in the back, and this adorable gold paper clip. I also want to talk about these. So this is a vintage stamp collection, and then this is just a separate washi tape collection that I am super excited to open. Look at the amazing prints in here. I audibly gasped when I first saw these colors. They are stunning. All of these are super pretty, but I love how they mixed in this dark blue with the red and burgundy. I think it was such a good color choice. And also this particular washi tape is clear. I've seen white translucent washi tapes before, but I've never seen one that's literally as clear as this. This is supposed to be a vintage stamp collection, and that's because of these lovely stickers. They are so pretty. I especially love these. So those are the stamps, but this is also another box of beautiful washi tapes. Just to highlight a few favorites, this one actually comes off as stickers individually along this roll, which I think is super nice. This one is also super pretty because it comes off as almost individual like stamps. Overall, just everything in this collection was just so well thought out. And I can tell the amount of
detail they put into designing everything. So if you are looking for a new bullet journal for the new year, or just want to grab yourself some stunning stationery, because my goodness, the link to Notebook Therapy's website will be down in the description box below. And if you use my code Mingo, then you can get an extra 10% off your order. So thank you so much, Notebook Therapy, for sending me these gorgeous stationery products. And now back to the video.
So as I said, I really wanted to decorate my spread with these washi tapes because I feel like they're so pretty and the colors would work great and almost match with like the greens and reds of my December theme. So I'm just going to be using a couple markers and adding some texture into the spread, whether it's adding this plaid design in the background of some of the squares, which I think is actually super cute. I got this idea from Leela Journals, who of course inspired this spread, because if you've been watching me for any amount of time, she's been inspiring a lot of my bullet journaling recently. And I saw her use this plaid technique where you go back and forth between thin and thick lines. So of course I wanted to use that. And then I'm also adding lines for I'm gonna write in some of the other boxes just to add some kind of, like I said, texture, something different for each of the boxes. And then I'm gonna go in with my washi tapes and start decorating, and the stickers also to just add some color to the page, play around with the see-through washi tapes, which was super fun, the stamp-like washi tapes, the rose one with the cutout, which is super pretty, kind of hard to work with. But anyway, I just wanted to experiment with that in this spread, and I hope you guys like how it turns out. But anyway, back to the year in review. The other two boxes are going to be more, I guess, thought-provoking, I think. At least they're the more challenging boxes for me, because it's not like I can just go down my list of goals and write which ones I didn't finish, or like go through my photos and look at my accomplishments or like fun things throughout the year. These ones just require a little more reflection. So the first box on the right says lessons on it, and this is lessons that I've learned this year. Now, I know that we've all learned lessons this year, don't even lie. It's literally 365 days of personal growth, so there has to be at least a couple things that you learned this year. For me, I don't want to get too personal with this, but I definitely learned a lot more about friendships and relationships this year. And I also learned a lot more about managing my time better, because I literally have a bajillion hobbies, plus YouTube, plus my business, plus school, plus color guard, plus a bajillion other things, and maybe like a personal social life that could get involved somewhere. So managing time is definitely a really important thing for me, and something I still am working on balancing, but I definitely got a lot better at doing so this year. And just different things like that, different lessons that you can kind of reflect on, just because I feel like it's important to note that even though there are definitely struggles that we've gone through in the past 365 days, we've come out on the other side wiser and more experienced, and those are lessons that we need to take to heart because they make us into better people, and that's something we want to take into the next year. And speaking of taking into the next year, the last box in this spread at the very bottom is for next year. Oh good lord, it's raining. Lovely. I'm sorry if you guys can hear the rain in the background. It came out of nowhere, and I'm actually annoyed because I'm going to a party this evening and I don't want to mess up my hair. And now it's super loud. Fantastic. This is not going to deter me from filming, so I'm sorry if you hear a little background noise, but let's keep going. So the last box on the right, like I said, is for the next year. And I'm going to be creating an entirely different video about goal setting and planning for 2023 and all of my stuff for that. So watch out for that. Subscribe if you haven't already, because that's going to be coming out in a couple weeks. But I did want to put a little box in the corner here about prepping for the next year, because I think it's important to reflect back on the past year when looking for the future. So we just did 3 boxes about the wins, the maybe losses, and the lessons that we learned for the past year. And so I feel like these 3 different categories really influence how we want to look at the next year. So what lessons did you learn that you can apply to the next year? What things did you love doing in the past 365 days that you want to implement more into the next year because it made you a happier person? What goals do you want to now move into the next year since you didn't complete them? And or what goals do you maybe want to forget because they're not very important to you anymore? What relationships do you want to foster? What hobbies do you want to start? Stuff like that. And it's a pretty small box for that very extensive list of ideas, but like I said, I'll create an entirely different spread for planning for the new year in my new bullet journal. So this is just a quick little brain dump section, I guess, where I can just put down the most important things. And then whenever I create that second spread, I'll not only go into more detail, but I'll also list out how to implement those goals and new things for the new year, because I feel like that's the most important step, if anything, is how to implement it. So with that, this spread is done. I definitely had a lot of fun playing around with the washi tapes and putting them in different positions. Let me tell you, it was a little stressful because I always kept going back and forth and like changing the placement of things. But now that I'm looking at it, I feel like it looks really good and I cannot wait to fill this in. Like I said at the beginning of this video, if you want to do a year in review just like this, there is a downloadable PDF in the description box below with a template of the bullet journal spread that I made. So you don't have to go and make your own. If you don't want to, you can just copy this, print it out, and use that to plan out your year in review. If you like this video and want to see more productivity and bullet journal content from yours truly, don't forget to subscribe. I upload every week. And don't forget to use code MINGA at Notebook Therapy's website to get some adorable new bullet journals and washi tapes. A great Christmas present if you ask me. And if you want to see more bullet journal content from me, check out this video right here where I flipped through my entire 2022 bullet journal so you can see all of the Bujo themes and spreads, and I will catch you over in that video. Toodles!